Hello, welcome to the program. I'm Dr. James Bisland. For those of you who watched the program last month, we did the interview with Heath Wright, the head of Ricochet, and I have been very honored to be able to serve the Oklahoma School for the Blind Foundation as the vice president. And as those of you who did watch the program last month knew, that we are holding a benefit concert to benefit the Oklahoma School for the Blind. The School for the Blind Foundation is a 501c3 charity corporation, and our main hope is that we are there to help the students, faculty, and staff of the Oklahoma School for the Blind. What most people don't realize is that there are a lot of things that are necessary to run the school and to benefit the school that the state funds are not allowed to purchase. And hence we have formed the School for the Blind Foundation as kind of the heart of the School for the Blind, to give the kids awards for Student of the Year and scholarships for those that are going on to continuing education in college or trade schools. And so we are doing a concert benefit here in Muskogee at the Muskogee Civic Center, which is the famous place where Merle Haggard recorded the album Okie from Muskogee in 1969. On November 13th of 2025, we are doing the benefit concert. Starts at 7 p.m. there at the Civic Center. And we're going to have the link here on the video for you to buy tickets, because that's the way that we're going to do the fundraising. Is all the ticket sales are going to go directly to the foundation, so that we can then provide the items for the school that they need. Some of the teachers need things that the state can't supply. We do holiday meals for staff and faculty. We do, as I said, Student of the Year awards, Teacher and Employee of the Year awards, and so forth each spring during the graduation ceremony. So it's a big project, but we're doing real well, moving toward the benefit. And as I said, those of you that were here last month program, we had Heath Wright as the headliner with Ricochet. And since then, some of their songs are being re-released and remastered. And now he's becoming very famous over in Europe. Daddy's Money has climbed to number 1 at one point. And then there is another song that is now up to, I think, number 6. So on today's program, we are going to talk with the opening act. He's going to open the show. And I have known Becky for a while. We'll leave it at that. Many years. She is a singer and songwriter, originally from Bartlesville, Oklahoma. She now resides in Nashville. She also is an accomplished playwright, wrote music for a play. We're going to talk about that later. So, Becky, welcome to our program.
Wow, I'm tickled to be here.
And we're really thrilled that you're here with us, but we're more thrilled that you're going to be with us for the benefit concert in November to open up for Ricochet.
I'm just delighted. I love Ricochet, and I love what you're doing, and I'm just grateful to be a part of it.
So what I would like to talk about today is kind of the personal side of the music industry. We know, those of us who are around artists a lot, we know that it's not all the glamour and glitz that it's made out to be. But what I'd like to do is start out and have you tell us a little bit about how you started. You were a small town girl in Bartlesville, and kind of went from there.
Yeah, well, I started writing songs when I was 9 years old. Actually, when my family moved from 122 North Quapaw in Bartlesville to Princeton Drive, we got to get a piano. And my dad always loved music, so he bought us girls a piano. I took 3 lessons and then quit because I didn't like reading the big notes on the page. But my sister learned how to play all these beautiful flowery pieces. But I started making up my own songs. And I'd thump on the piano and stomp my foot. And I had pigtails at the time. My sister said I reminded her of Rhoda the little scary girl in that old movie. Remember that? Anyway, so I started writing songs at 9 years of age, and then at age 15, I talked my mom and dad into buying me an electric guitar. And I cranked that sucker up, and I called my girlfriends, and we started what has now been designated as the first all-female rock band in the state of Oklahoma. I found that out when I was inducted into the Oklahoma Music Hall of Fame in 2015. So at first we were too young to drive, so our dads, Mr. Morrison, Beth Ann and Mary Lou's dad, and my dad would take turns like driving us to the gig, and we would always make sure that they would like let us out and then go hide in the alley because we didn't want the boys to know that we were too young to drive. So anyway, we started playing like some of the Y-Teen gigs, and then, as young girls do, we started bickering a little bit in high school, and a guy in Tulsa named Charlie Brown, who had Charlie Brown's guitars, got the idea from my all-girl band because we had started playing Lee Bailey's dance party in Tulsa on Saturday morning. He got the idea to have a contest for an all-girl band. So some of us auditioned for the contest, and I won the lead guitar position. And it wasn't long after that when they decided I was a better keyboard player than guitar player. So I sort of switched back and forth. But that band, they had a contest, and that band was called the Surprise Package, Sirprize Package. And we were mini skirts and go-go boots, and Charlie Brown always made sure that we were wearing our shorts under our mini skirts. I know. We didn't want to give them more of a show than they anticipated. But we did play in the area, and then I went 1 year to Tulsa University playing in the all-girl band. And then I said, college ain't for me, and hit the road with a couple of the other gals from the Surprise Package. And we went up north. We went to New York State and played in Pennsylvania. And we had an old International Harvester truck that I had painted like a psychedelic face on the hood. You know, made lips out of the grill and two big eyes on the hood. And we were wild as March hares and played a lot of the clubs up there and the show bars. And then we started, then we wound up in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and played some fraternity gigs there. And that group started bickering. And I met a southern rock band called Swamp Fox in Baton Rouge, and Louis Anderson. And he invited me to join their band as keyboard player. And I think I played some rhythm guitar as well. So after Christmas of whatever year that was, 1970, Christmas of 1970. God, am I that old?
Join the crowd.
That's scary,
yeah,
but we're still here. So I went back home to Oklahoma, and then when I went back out, I joined Swamp Fox, and I moved to Baton Rouge, Louisiana for 2 years. And then after that, do you want me to continue, or do you have more questions?
No,
well,
you're doing great.
The band Swamp Fox had a guitar player named Louis Anderson, who was a good songwriter, and he was the leader of the band. So we started writing together, and we played all these really big outdoor. We opened for like Ted Nugent and the Amboy Dukes, and opened for some fairly big acts back then. But we decided that we needed to go out to Los Angeles. So Louis Anderson and I loaded our individual jalopies and rolled into L.A. and got a little rental house in Hollywood. And we had been told about a guy named Kim Fowley and by Lynn Orso, who was one of the big music people in Baton Rouge. So we called Kim Fowley because he had something to do with Popsicles, Icicles by the Mermaid, and the Mermaids, and Alley Oop by the Hollywood Argyles and such. And Kim showed up at our door in 93-degree weather in a full-length rabbit coat, saying, "Hurry up, fix me something to eat. I'm about to faint in the streets." So that was our invitation to Hollywood. And Kim took me around to meet Lou Adler. I met Cheech of Cheech and Chong. I met a whole bunch of different people through him and started playing my songs. And that was my first really intro into the business.
So when did you start recording?
Okay. Well, okay. I'll back up and tell you about my first big cut because that sort of led to the recording. Okay?
Sure.
I met a guy, I was walking down Hollywood Boulevard and met a guy named Tornado Warren. He was a real cute guy with long hair. And I just struck up a conversation with him. And he said, "What do you do?" And I said, "Well, I'm a songwriter." He said, "Oh." He said, "Do you have anything for Helen Reddy?" And I said, "Do I?" He happened to work for Ron de Blasio, who shared an office with Jeff Wald, who was Helen Reddy's husband. So I put a little cassette tape together of songs. And then sometime during the next week, midweek, I got a call from him. He said, "Jeff loves your songs. He's going to play them for Helen." And Helen recorded, the first song we got recorded was "I'll Be Your Audience." Helen Reddy was closing her shows with that, and then later Shirley Bassey cut that. So that was my first big break as a songwriter. But that, indeed, you asked me how I got into the studio, that helped me get my first record deal with MCA Records when I was living out in L.A. Artie Mogul was a very good friend of Jeff Wald's, and he signed me to a record deal, and we went. Brad Shapiro produced the album, and we went to Muscle Shoals and cut the tracks. Then we put on the horns and the sweetening in Miami, Florida. And that'd be a good song, Miami, Florida, or Oklahoma. Which would you rather go to?
I think it depends on the time of the year.
Good answer. Good answer. I love that. So that was my first record deal on MCA.
So what was your first recording that was released to radio?
Well, let's see. Let me think. Oh, goodness. I can't really remember the first. I can't remember what the first single was. Isn't that terrible? It would have been on the regular Becky Hobbs album on MCA, but I can't remember. So if anyone out there remembers, give me a call or text me.
Okay, well, we'll move on one you probably will remember.
Okay.
The first big hit that you recorded as an artist, as a performer, not as a writer.
Okay, well, as a performer, I had some bubbling unders like Oklahoma Heart on EMI Records and a few things like that. But my first really big one as just Becky Hobbs and not a duet, Jones on the Jukebox.
That's what I figured.
Yeah, Jones on the Jukebox. And that was, I believe, it was like 87, 88, something like that. And I had moved to Nashville by then. And I was still writing for Al Gallico, who lived in L.A., but Al Gallico had signed pretty much the biggest writers in country music and the biggest producers like Billy Sherrill, Nora Wilson, the big ones that produced Tammy Wynette, George Jones, Donna Fargo, etc.
So where did Jones on the Jukebox, how high did it go?
Wow, how high did it go? On the national Billboard charts, I'm trying to think, maybe it didn't go like top 10, but it got a lot of airplay because back then, female artists, a lot of them weren't cutting like honky tonk and shuffles. I think, I'm not sure. It went right around top 30. I know that.
Yeah, that's what I figured it was.
Yeah,
And
but in a lot of markets, it went to number one,
Right.
especially in Texas and Oklahoma.
In Oklahoma. And you've written some big songs that have gone number one.
Well, I tell you what, my first big one as a single was I Want to Know You Before We Make Love. Mm-hmm. That Alabama cut that first. I met Randy Owen very early on when I first moved to Nashville. And Alabama, thank God, were the kind of act that they would listen to a song no matter who wrote it.
Right.
The best song wins. And a lot of artists back then wouldn't listen unless you already had a known name as a writer. But Candy Parton and I wrote that song, I Want to Know You Before We Make Love. She and I had started writing when I was still in L.A., and right soon after I moved to Nashville, our very first song that we cut, Charlie McLean cut it. Remember Charlie McLean? Who's
Very
Cheating
much
Who?
so.
She cut a song that Candy and I wrote called I'd Rather Give It Away to a Stranger Than Throw It Away on You.
Yes.
So we had written one song and had gotten a big artist to cut it, and then I moved to Nashville. So Candy and I said, man, we've got to continue writing. So Candy flew in, showed up at my door, stomping her cowgirl boot at my door in Nashville. And I, let her in the house, and she kept saying, I want to know you before we make love. I want to know you before we make love. And I said, Candy, you know I'm not that way. I like guys. She said, no, this song's coming. So anyway, she was spouting out the words, and so I get to my little baby grand piano, and I start playing, and we wrote it. So after we wrote it, I did a little demo of it, put it on a little cassette, wrapped the lyrics around it, left it for Randy Owen at Music Mill Studio, which was their studio in Nashville. And then a day later, I got a call, and he said, we're cutting the song. And that was music to my ears. So anyway, that song was on their 40-Hour Week album. And that was back when a songwriter could actually make royalties from album cuts. So Candy and I did very well. But then the label did not want it to be a single. It was very political. And Randy Owen could not believe it. So guess what? I cried all the way to Conway Twitty. And Conway cut it and took it to number 1. And later, I opened some shows for Conway, and he said he couldn't believe that it wasn't going to be a single. Randy couldn't believe it wasn't a single. But Conway Twitty was the kind of artist that he never looked at the lyric sheet. He never wanted to know who wrote the song. He did not want that to determine if he recorded the song or not. Right. And he told Candy and I that. I wound up opening for him in Branson, and he told us that when we were sitting on the bus visiting with him. So that was my first big cut.
So other than that one, and was the Angels Among Us was a big one?
Oh, yes. I can tell you about that. After Alabama cut I Want to Know You Before We Make Love, they were cutting a Christmas album. And I pitched them a song that I co-wrote called Christmas Memories. And Randy Owen called me when they were in the studio and wanted to know how the song was written. And I told him how it was inspired. And he said, well, I think we're going to cut it. And I'm like, so excited about it. So then a few days later, I was talking with Randy. I said, did you all record it? He said, we recorded the tracks. He said, but I couldn't sing it without breaking down, because the song is about my dad. Have you heard the song? Yeah, it's on their Red Christmas album. But he said he couldn't get through the vocal without breaking down. But anyway, to make a long story short, they wound up cutting it, and it was on the Red Christmas album. And then, with Angels Among Us, do you want me to tell you how the story came to be?
Sure, go ahead.
Wow. Well, shortly before Christmas of 1986, Christmas of 1985, I started getting premonitions that I was going to be in some kind of a bad accident. And it would just happen when I was drifting off to sleep. And it would feel like I was in some kind of an impact. And I'd wake up and not know what was happening, but I got this sick feeling that something was going to happen to me. And this continued up through the holidays. And then in January, just only, a little over a month later, I was in my kitchen making myself a birthday cake in the wee hours of the morning on January 24th, because I was going to have people over for my birthday later that day. And I got the same feeling that something was going to happen. And I actually felt a force take a hold of my arm and pull me out into my front yard. And I'm there in my house by myself. And I'm looking up, and I said, what do you want me to know? And I heard a loud masculine voice say, be careful, this may be your last birthday. And I asked for more information, and I didn't get it. And I went back in. I finished making the cake. I was confused. I was upset. And I thought, this is what they've been trying to tell me. Anyway, so I went to bed, had people over that next day. We had the cake. The very next morning, on Saturday morning, my band and I climbed in our Dodge Maxi van and we pull in a trailer. We had a gig in Albertville, Alabama. We played the gig. It was a policeman's benefit. Played the gig, got back in the van to head back to Nashville. Now, it was cold, it was raining, and we were at a four-way a traffic light. And I'm in the middle row of the van, and I look out the left window, and there's an 18-wheeler barreling towards the intersection. Our light's red. He's barreling, and I thought, my God, if his light turns red, he's not going to be able to stop. And then right then, I felt our driver take his foot off the brake, and we started moving, and I yelled, stop, and he just jammed on the brakes. Anyway, the 18-wheeler blew his air horn, whatever, slammed into the left front of our Dodge Maxi van, and we spun around, and then there was just dead silence, and I thought, this is what they were trying to tell me. I thought we were all dead because it was just silent. And then everyone started moaning, and, everybody, we all got out of there with scrapes, bruises. I was sore for 6 months, probably. The police came, of course. Some angels took us to the hospital. A woman took us to even get some food because we hadn't had anything, and we were going to pull through somewhere on the way home to eat. But I wrote down the title, Angels Among Us, and then I savored that title, and I worked on it, especially when I'd go back to Oklahoma, and I'd sit in, my dad had passed away, and I'd sit in his easy chair, and I'd pray that it would come. And a little bit came, and I had a lot of the chorus, but the verses didn't sound right. I was with my band in a van. And I wanted to write something that children could relate to, because children see and hear their angels more, I think, than we adults do. So anyway, finally, 7 years later, in 1993, 7 years later, I called Don Goodman. Don Goodman and I had been writing lots of songs together, and he's a word wizard. He is so talented. And I said, Don, I got this title. I said, you want to come over and I'll play you what I've got? And so I said, let me know if you want to jump in on this. And I hummed some of the verse, and then I played the chorus. And I said, do you want to help me out with this? And I looked up, and he had tears streaming down his face. He said, Beck, I'd be honored. So we created a song we wanted that children could relate to. And then, so I took it over to Randy Owen, and I thought, this is so unlike anything they've ever recorded. But then I immediately got a call from him, and they were in the studio that week, and he was asking me how the song came to be. And I said, are you going to cut it? He said, nobody in the band wants to cut it but me. And then he called me like the next day. I said, have you recorded it yet? He said, no, I haven't talked Teddy into it. Jeff doesn't want to do it. He said, so the next day, Josh Leo was producing them. And so the very next day, I asked him, he called me. I said, have you cut it? He said, I told him I was quitting the band if they didn't record this song.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty strong.
I know. So anyway, thank you, Randy Owen. They recorded it, and it has been one of their biggest songs by far, and they have used it. The biggest blessing, they've used it to raise money for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, and other charities, United Way, have used it. And to me, that's if this is my legacy, I'm happy because it's helped people.
So when you moved to Nashville, I talked to you earlier and asked you about the Grand Ole Opry.
Yes. When I was on the charts with Jones on the Jukebox and Are There Any More Like You Where You Came From, and They Always Look Better When They're Leaving, and the Mo Bandy duet, Let's Get Over Them Together, which made top 10. I love Mo. I love that song. So when I was on the charts, any weekend that I was in town, I was working all the time. You know, we were out coming back and forth every weekend. But if I did have a night off, I would get to be on the Opry because back then there weren't a lot of frisky females. They've got lots of frisky females now. But back then there weren't a lot. Of course, Jeannie Seeley, whom I'll always love, and Connie Smith, and some of the most beautiful people on the planet. So I would get to play it, and I had more fun than a barrel of monkeys because I'd always be so wound up. I'm on the Grand Ole Opry, and sometimes I could use my band. Sometimes I had to use the house band, and I'd always stress because they've never played this song before, la, 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 la. But just backstage, right before walking out, they'd look at the chart, they'd listen to the verse and the chorus, maybe run through on acoustic guitar a little bit, and there's an old upright piano back there, and then we'd just walk out and nail it. I mean, those musicians are so talented, and the Opry members were so welcoming. Such a beautiful thing. I want to play it again, but I'm on the charts, and I mean, they're going for a lot of the younger artists now.
So when you first stepped on there, tell us what it feels like from an artist standpoint to stand in that circle.
Standing in that circle, I made sure I got in that circle. Yes, it just brings back. I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it. I think about all of those who have stood in that circle and how much it means and how many people have sat out in those pews and, even in the new Opry House and, of course, doing it at the Ryman, which I've gotten to do several times. It's so beautiful. It means everything because it has lasted for so many years and other things have come and gone. And you think about people who took the trip of their lifetime because they wanted to come to the Grand Ole Opry. It's so beautiful.
It is, and this is their 100th anniversary this year. So
I know. What do I have to do to get back on it?
That's a good question.
I don't know.
Probably you and 10,000 other people want to know the same question. I'm going to switch gears on us here.
Okay.
Because your newest endeavor has been you did a play. You wrote a play and the music for the play about Nancy Ward, your fifth great-grandmother.
Very good.
Called Nanyehi.
Yeah.
A play, by the way, if you get to do it, I've seen it 5 times, and we will again next year when it comes back. But tell us the story about Nanyehi and your involvement in that.
Wow. Do you want to hear something about her life?
Sure.
To see, well...
Because that's what inspired you to do it.
Exactly. Well, ever since I was a little girl, my mom said, Becca, you're a direct descendant of Nancy Ward, beloved woman of the Cherokee. And then she would tell me the story. And what really captured me is that she was beside her husband, Kingfisher, when they were in battle against the Creek Indians in the Battle of Taliwa, which is now right in the eastern Tennessee, Georgia area. But she was chewing the bullets to make them more deadly. Kingfisher was killed, fell to the ground. She took his rifle, shot his assailant, and led the Cherokees to victory. And at that point, she was honored as Gigagaya Gaya Aniyahuya, war woman of the Cherokee. And to have this honor, she could determine the fate of captives. She would be the leader of the Women's Council. Cherokee society was matrilineal. If a baby was born, it was born into the mother's tribe, and the women ruled the roost. The women really controlled everything except the men went to war, but the Women's Council decided when to go to war. It's very interesting. So I knew that I was a direct descendant, and I was enamored by her story. And back in 1993, I wrote Pale Moon, Let There Be Peace, By the Fire, and a couple of other songs that didn't make it to the musical. But I thought I would be doing an album of songs about her. And then I got busy performing. I was doing a lot of festivals in Europe and such, and still traveling and still supporting the hillbilly band, Hillbilly Bills, Hillbilly Bus. So I sort of put it aside for a few years, and then I met Nick Sweet in 2007. My hometown, Bartlesville, Oklahoma, was doing its salute to the Oklahoma Centennial, and Nick Sweet had written a play. He had directed some things in Bartlesville, and he had written a play about Bartlesville and how it came to be called the City of Legends. So I was one of the headliners, and John Durrell from the Five Americans, also several other people from Bartlesville were honored that night. But in my portion of the show, I sang Honky Tonk Saturday Night, Jones on the Jukebox, several things, and I sang a couple of songs that I'd written about Nancy Ward. After the show at the autograph table, Nick said, I know who Nancy Ward was, because a lot of people back then didn't know. And he knew because he had directed Trail of Tears in Tahlequah. He had acted in it under the direction of Joe Sears, who's also from Bartlesville. And so I just blurted out at the autograph table, let's write a musical. And boy, howdy. From the mouths of babes, we had no idea what we were in for and the years and years of work. But we did write the musical. We co-wrote the book. I wrote 18 songs for the musical. I co-wrote a few of those songs. And we have had 13 productions now in 4 states. And, of course, our biggest productions have been at the Hard Rock in Tulsa. And our last production featured Oscar recipient Wes Studi. And you want to hear the wildest thing about the Wes Studi thing?
Sure.
Well, years ago when I met him in 2014 when he was being interviewed in Oklahoma City at the Oklahoma History Center. I was sitting out in the audience, and I thought, wow, he would make a great peace chief, Atakulakula, or as Wes calls it, Atagaskala. We found out from Wes that we'd been pronouncing it wrong for all these years. But anyway, I spoke with him afterwards, and we chatted about him being Atakulakula, Atagaskala, and he asked if Atakulakula had a song, and I said, no, but I'll write you one. So I wrote Love Doesn't Come in Colors specifically for Wes Studi to sing all those years ago. Well, things didn't work out for him to be in the musical back then. But then guess what? When he was determined to be a Nancy Ward descendant on Finding Your Roots not quite 2 years ago, he had no idea he was a Nancy Ward descendant. Then I reached back out to him, and we worked it out. So he got to play the uncle of his, I'm not sure which great-grandmother that she was. Maybe one more than me. But isn't that the wildest thing?
That's amazing. And he did an absolutely wonderful job.
He rocked it.
He did.
And you know what? Everybody in the cast just fell in love with him. He was so kind and patient with everyone.
Well, the first one we saw was in Tahlequah when you were just getting it started back, 16 maybe, something.
Yeah, in Tahlequah it was 2013. 13, okay.
That
was
I
at
didn't realize it was that
NSU.
long ago. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, because our first production was 2012 in Hartwell, Georgia.
Okay. And then I saw the one last year at the Hard Rock. And, the storyline is always been good, but the production has been amazing.
Thank you.
It gets better every time. So
Thank you. Thank you for coming to all the shows.
Well, we love it.
Well, thank you. I'm grateful. I am so grateful.
We're going to go again.
Thank you.
You're going to be here in Muskogee on
Yes.
the 13th of November and going to open up for Ricochet.
Yes.
Now, I heard a rumor
Yeah.
that you and Heath are going to be releasing a new song for you.
Yes.
It's one that David Frizzell and Shelley West recorded.
That's right.
But I also heard a rumor that somehow that song was written with you in mind.
Well, the rumor has it, the interesting thing is the song is You're the Reason God Made Oklahoma. And I was dating Larry Collins out in L.A. when he and Sandy Pinker wrote the song. So now, Larry, and this was during the urban cowboy craze. So Larry told me that the song was written about me. Well, Larry was a very good-looking, talented guy, and he was dating others. But he told me that, and I had the 2-room flat, Calico Cat Street in West L.A. It was actually West Hollywood, right off of Doheny. But and then years later, and I did not know Sandy at that time. Well, I met him soon after that, but then I really got to know him in Nashville because he moved to Nashville right around the same time that I did. A bunch of us people in L.A. did. And Sandy Pinker told me, he said, Well, he said when we first wrote the song, he said, I started out being You're the Reason I Left Oklahoma. And he was laughing and all that about it. And so anyway, yeah, I feel like maybe I might have been a spark of some of the inspiration because Larry and I were dating. And then Sandy and I went out several times in Nashville. And he's more fun than a barrel of monkeys. He's passed away since.
He has. I didn't know
Larry
that.
Collins, and then Sandy Pinkard passed a few months ago.
Okay,
sadly,
I had not heard that.
Yeah,
I was a listener of him and Pinkard and Bowden.
Pinkard and Bowden. Were they not hilarious?
They were hilarious. The precursor to Cletus T. Judd.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And Sandy was just that funny. In fact, he made me a boot pull, and he wrote on there, "You're the reason God made Oklahoma," and signed his name, and that's sweet. I mean, what a great song.
So for the benefit concert, are you going to have your band, or are we just going to have you and the piano?
Well, it's going to be me and the piano. I'm at the point in my life where I've worked with lots of musicians. I don't have a full-time band now.
Right.
So to work in a group, and when I go here, like, I'm looking at myself. You're going to laugh. I'm laughing. The female Jimmy Webb. Okay. Jimmy Webb is one of my very favorite songwriters, and I got to meet him when I lived out in L.A. I briefly dated Harry Nilsson. So Jimmy Webb, we all went on a yacht trip that Jimmy Webb owned. And he and Mickey Dolenz and Harry Nilsson all swore that they saw a flying saucer. So every time I see Jimmy Webb now, he says, "Did you see the flying saucer?" And I said, "No, I didn't go out on that excursion. They went out somewhere like at 2 a.m. hiking in the dark on an island, on Santa Cruz Island." Anyway, yeah, that's that story. But Jimmy Webb, I think, is absolutely, hands down, one of the greatest songwriters on this planet. I love, and as a person, he's wonderful. So I just love it because he goes out there and he plays and sings by himself. Of course, he's had huge hits, which I'm still working. I'm still wanting more and more. But with Angels, I feel like at least I've got a place at the table,
Well, I've seen you with your band fully. I've seen you just with you and the piano. And there really is not a whole lot of difference in the energy of the show. So
well,
we're really looking forward to November 13th and the concert with you and Ricochet.
Thank you.
When is your duet coming out? Do you guys have a release date?
I don't know. It's part of Heath's album,
Right.
So that would be up to him. Yeah, we're going to have to ask him.
I was told you were going to do that, though.
Yes,
we
we are.
A duet on the
We
13th
are.
of November.
We are going to do it.
Okay.
And one thing I would love to say about Heath is that, and talking about Jimmy Webb, is that at Jim Paul Blair's Celebration of Life, Heath Wright got up there and played and sang by himself Wichita Lineman. And when an artist can get up there and play and sing and do all these little riffs and just rope you in, I mean, he is, and the whole band's great, but he's got that it something, and I'm tickled to death to be working with him and Ricochet and you.
I'm thrilled that we're going to have both of you on the same night.
It's going to be so much fun.
As you know, I have been trying to do this with you for years.
I know.
Get you to do a benefit, and it always fell apart. And
I know.
We finally were able to get it done, and that's a big thing. And
well, thank you, and I am grateful for all the great work that you do to help people, and that you have kept on and do so many great things. You're a legacy.
Well, thank you. So for tickets, if you look on the screen, we're going to have the QR code. You can order tickets for the concert. Again, that is going to be Thursday night, November 13th of 2025 at the Muskogee Civic Center here in Muskogee, Oklahoma. And it is a great benefit for a great cause. The Oklahoma School for the Blind Foundation we work really hard to try to help the kids to become more productive citizens, to be able to live a more normal life with their visual impairments. And it's been a real blessing for me to be able to work with the school and with the foundation. So come and join us. It's going to be a great night of music. Tickets start at only $15 for general admission. The most expensive seats are the VIPs, and they're only $50. So you can't go wrong. Come, let's fill the auditorium. They told me we can't sell it out. I'm going to say let's sell it out. Between Becky and Ricochet, even if everybody bought a $50 ticket, you're going to get your money's worth and more. And so we're just looking forward to it. And we appreciate all of you that have sponsored the event, because the sponsors are helping to pay the expenses so that the tickets can go directly toward the foundation so we can do more to help the school. Thank you all for paying attention. Thank you for joining us this time, and we look forward to next time.